Okay, so I want to show you something interesting. When we look at this header here and we see it, we know that there is some, and I'm just going to right click this and inspect this. We know there's some margin on the top and some margin at the bottom. And this or these properties are provided by the browser itself. And as long as we are dependent on the browser's properties, things can always go wrong. Right? Internet Explorer could render your header in a completely different way with a completely different margin than, say, a Chrome or a Firefox. To overcome this problem and to overcome this default styling that all browsers have, we use something called normalization. A normalization style sheet is a specific style sheet. Let me just show you that. Right? It's a specific style sheet that makes all elements more consistently align with modern standards, right? So all browsers, your elements look the same. There's no random styling, and it's basically a way to clear out all the bad styles. So if I download this, you'll see that this basically does things like give a 0 margin to the body. It does things like, let me just show you some more things. Yeah, with the A tag, it removes background colors because sometimes the A tag can have background colors, the anchor tag for links. Let me just show you the H1, right? So with the H1, it sets a font size, it changes the margin a little bit. So that's the thing about normalization, right? When you install normalization, and all I need to do is copy this entire thing, go to my Sublime text, create a new file. I'm going to paste this, I'm going to save it, and I'm just going to call it normalize.css. I'm going to save that. And as usual, we've linked one style sheet. We can surely link another. We'll link the normalize.css here, right? And now if we refresh, you can see some small but subtle changes, but actually your web page has become more compatible with many different types of browsers, right? So that's it for normalize. And I want to take it one step further. So remember how we create all these classes for things like clearing floats, how we created classes for, floating something to the left or floating something to the right. So a bunch of very smart people at Twitter many, many years ago decided, we're bored of all these default browser styles. We're bored of all the links looking blue in color. So let's make our own CSS framework. And that framework was called Bootstrap, which is a very, very popular HTML and CSS framework. So Bootstrap is again a style sheet, and it's a style. Let me just, you can link it directly from a offsite link. I'm just going to copy this. You can just paste it right below in your header. And like I said, you can either link to a style sheet that's in the same folder, or you can link to a style sheet that's somewhere on a different website. Here's the different website. It's on Bootstrap's CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network, right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to refresh. As you can see, everything changes, right? This is Bootstrap in action. As you can see, the fonts are a little better. The hello font is a little better. Some of these have gone out of the box's boundaries because Bootstrap does some things by default, and we'll have to actually play with it. But if I wanted something like a button and I did, button, I'm not going to have a class. I'm just going to say button name and /button. Right now, if I save this, you can see this nice clean button that Bootstrap gives me instead of the dirty one that a default browser would give me. And what I'm going to do is I can actually give this button a Bootstrap class. So I can say class btn-success. Right now, these are all Bootstrap classes. I'm very familiar with Bootstrap because I've been using it for a long time, but you can see a reference and you can see the entire Bootstrap reference in the documentation here. So for example, if you wanted components, you can see buttons, you can see all the different button classes that you can use. So now that I put in btn and btn success, you can see that it becomes green and it becomes slightly larger. So that's the cool part about things like Bootstrap, right? They speed up your work. So things like forms and inputs and drop downs and lists, they all look a little better because of Bootstrap. They're aligned a little better. They're compatible across different browsers. It was somebody's responsibility to do this, right? To create all of this at Twitter. And that's what I keep talking about, abstractions. Every framework created by somebody, for example, the browser rendering framework allowed people to create HTML and CSS. HTML and CSS allowed people to create Bootstrap. And having all of these things allows people to create even more and more abstractions. So I'm really thankful to all these software developers that did the hard work, that built the core engine so that somebody could build a cleaner and a better engine on top. So when software is buggy, don't blame those people, help them fix it or help them build a better abstraction on top. So that's it for this episode. In fact, this is the last episode of us doing any sort of coding. In the next episode onwards, we're going to start using Webflow and start creating really good looking and really interesting websites without any code whatsoever. So bye-bye and catch you on the next episode.